The blade kissed her palm before she understood what was happening. Zuri felt the sting first, then the flood of something worse, a tearing inside her chest, like roots ripped from soil. Her knees buckled. The ceremonial platform swam in torchlight as her blood dripped onto the sacred stone, and the mate bond she'd carried for 3 years began to unravel thread by agonizing thread. "I reject you." Darius's voice cut through the night. Cold. Final. The alpha she'd loved since childhood stood over her with the ritual knife still wet, his deep brown skin gleaming in the firelight, his broad shoulders squared against any protest. His locks fell past his jaw, framing a face she no longer recognized. "I reject you as my mate, Zuri. Before the blood moon. Before this pack. Before the ancestors." The crowd of 200 wolves did not breathe. If you believe truth matters, subscribe now so you don't miss what comes next. Zuri tried to speak. Her tongue felt thick, foreign. The bond break was supposed to be a myth, something elders whispered about to frighten pups who wandered too close to the border. No alpha had performed one in living memory. The pain was supposed to be survivable. It did not feel survivable. "Darius," her voice came out broken. "What are you?" Silence. He turned away from her, and the dismissal carved deeper than the knife. "I have chosen another." He extended his hand toward the crowd. A woman stepped forward. Tall, elegant, her warm cocoa skin flawless under the moonlight. Imani wore ceremonial white, her braids coiled in an elaborate crown, her smile soft and triumphant as she climbed the platform steps. Zuri knew that face. Everyone did. Imani was the Beta's sister. Beautiful. Ambitious. And now, apparently, claiming the Luna seat. "Tonight I take Imani as my mate and Luna," Darius announced. His voice carried across the assembly grounds without effort. "She will bear strong heirs. She will honor the bloodline. She will not bring weakness to our pack." Weakness. The word landed like a blow. Zuri's vision blurred. She pressed her bleeding palm to the stone, trying to anchor herself as the bond continued to shred. She could feel Darius's wolf retreating from the connection, could feel herself being erased from his soul like a name scrubbed from a ledger. "No," she whispered. "No, this isn't. We're fated. You know we're fated. Your wolf chose me." "My wolf was wrong." Darius still did not look at her. His hand wrapped around Imani's fingers, drawing her close. The connection was always thin. Unstable. I ignored the signs because I was young. Because I was foolish. I will not make that mistake again. Thin. Unstable. 3 years of shared dreams. 3 years of his wolf calling to hers across any distance. 3 years of a bond so strong she could taste his emotions on her tongue. And he called it thin. "You're lying." The words tore from her throat before she could stop them. "Whatever she promised you, whatever she told you, it's a lie. Look at me, Darius. Look at your mate." He finally turned. His eyes were flat. Empty. The warm amber she remembered had gone cold as river stones. No recognition flickered in their depths. No regret. No hesitation. "Guards," he said quietly, "remove her." 2 wolves stepped forward. Zuri recognized them both, men she'd trained beside, laughed with, trusted. They did not meet her eyes as they gripped her arms. "She is no longer pack," Darius continued. "Strip her rank. Burn her records. She leaves by dawn." "On what grounds?" The voice rang out from the crowd, sharp and ancient. Elder Naomi pushed through the front row, her silver locks swinging, her rich mahogany skin carved with decades of pack service. At 73, she was the oldest surviving council member and the only wolf in the territory who could challenge an alpha's decree without immediate consequences. Darius's jaw tightened. She brought weakness to the bloodline. Specific grounds, Alpha. Naomi planted herself at the base of the platform steps. Pack law requires specific grounds for exile. Weakness is not a crime. Speak plainly or withdraw the order. The crowd shifted. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Zuri felt the guards' grips loosen slightly, uncertainty bleeding through their discipline. Darius drew a breath. She is barren. The murmurs became gasps. The healer confirmed it 6 months ago. He continued. I kept the information private to preserve her dignity. But I will not bind this pack to a Luna who cannot produce an heir. Our enemies circle closer every season. We cannot afford a leadership vacuum. Barren. Zuri's mind went blank. Then, white-hot. That's not true, her voice cracked. The healer never told me. Because I instructed her not to. Darius's tone remained level. Clinical. As if he were discussing crop yields rather than destroying her life. I wanted to spare you the shame until I found a solution. Imani is that solution. You're lying. Zuri twisted against the guards. I've had no illness. No injury. There's been no examination, no? Enough. Darius raised his hand. Escort her to the border. She has until sunrise to cross. The guards began to drag her backward. Zuri dug her heels into the stone, fighting, but the bond break had stolen her strength. Her wolf howled somewhere deep inside her chest, wounded, confused, clawing at a connection that no longer existed. Wait. Naomi's voice carried the weight of generations. The elder climbed the first platform step, then the second. In her weathered hands she held a sealed envelope, yellow with age, stamped with the council's official crest. This exile cannot proceed. Darius's eyes narrowed. On what authority? Mine. And the council's. Naomi held up the envelope. 3 months ago, an anonymous source delivered evidence of mate claim interference to my private chambers. I have kept it sealed pending investigation. But given tonight's spectacle, I am invoking Article 12 of the Pact Charter. The crowd went still. Article 12. Zuri remembered learning about it as a pup. It allowed any council elder to delay an alpha's judgment if evidence suggested the judgment was based on fraud or corruption. The provision had not been used in 40 years. You have no right, Darius said slowly. The Charter exists specifically because alphas are not infallible. Naomi's gaze did not waver. Zuri will remain in Pact territory under protective custody until a formal hearing reviews this evidence. If the claims prove baseless, the exile proceeds. If they do not, she let the silence stretch, then this pack will know exactly what kind of alpha leads them. Imani stepped forward, her composure cracking. Elder, surely. You will have your chance to speak at the hearing. Naomi's tone could have frozen the summer air. Until then, I suggest you both pray your hands are clean. She turned to the guards, still gripping Zuri's arms. Release her. Now. They hesitated. Looked to Darius. The alpha stood frozen on the platform, Imani clutched against his side, the ritual knife still gleaming in his hand. For a long moment Zuri thought he might override the elder anyway, might damn the charter and drag her to the border himself. Then his jaw flexed. Fine, the word dropped like a stone. Keep her confined to the healer's cabin until the hearing. But understand this, Naomi, if you are wasting my time, if this evidence is nothing more than gossip and jealousy, you will answer for it. I look forward to it. Naomi beckoned to Zuri. Come, child. Let's get that hand cleaned. Zuri stumbled forward on legs that barely held her. The bond break still pulsed through her veins, a steady agony that refused to fade. She could feel Darius's gaze on her back as she followed the elder down the platform steps and through the parting crowd. She did not look at him. She would not give him that. The healer's cabin sat at the eastern edge of the compound, a small stone building surrounded by herb gardens and silence. Naomi guided her inside, closed the door, and drew the bolt. Only then did Zuri let herself break. The sobs came without warning, ugly, gasping things that tore through her chest and left her doubled over against the examination table. Her palm throbbed where the blade had cut her. Her heart throbbed worse. Naomi waited. When the worst had passed, the elder pulled a chair beside her and pressed a cool cloth to her bleeding hand. "Breathe, child. The pain will fade." "He rejected me." Zuri's voice was raw. "In front of everyone. He said our bond was thin. He said I was barren. He said many things." Naomi's dark eyes glittered in the candlelight. "Most of them lies." Zuri went still. "The evidence in that envelope," Naomi continued quietly, "suggests someone has been interfering with your mate bond for months. Masking your scent. Falsifying records. Poisoning Darius's perception of the connection." She paused. "And I intend to find out exactly who and why." The candle flame flickered. Outside, the blood moon continued to rise. 3 days in the healer's cabin taught Zuri things about herself she had never wanted to know. She learned that bond break pain came in waves, cresting every few hours, dragging her under until she surfaced gasping and soaked in sweat. She learned that her wolf could howl for hours without sound, a silent keening that echoed through her bones. She learned that the absence of Darius felt less like losing a limb, and more like discovering the limb had been poisoned all along. The wound on her palm refused to close properly. Every morning she unwrapped the bandages to find the cut still raw, still weeping clear fluid, as if her body itself rejected the severance. Naomi visited each dawn and dusk, bringing food Zuri barely touched and information she devoured. "The healer's name is Claudette," Naomi said on the second evening. She sat by the window, her silver locks catching the last light. "She's served this pack for 19 years. Never a complaint. Never a question. Until 6 months ago." Zuri pulled the thin blanket tighter around her shoulders. "What happened 6 months ago?" "Someone paid her." Naomi's voice stayed flat. "Handsomely. To falsify a single fertility record and deliver it privately to the Alpha." The words landed like stones in still water. Zuri felt the ripples spreading through her chest. "She lied," Zuri whispered. "About me being barren. She just lied." "She did. And she has agreed to confess at the hearing." Naomi paused. "Once I explained the alternative." "What alternative?" The elder's smile held no warmth. "Spending the rest of her life running from a pack that knows she betrayed one of its own." Zuri closed her eyes. She should feel vindicated. She should feel the first sparks of hope catching fire in her chest. Instead, she felt hollow, scraped clean. "Why?" The question broke from her lips. "Why would anyone do this? Claudette barely knows me. I've never—" "The payment came through an intermediary." Naomi reached into her robes and withdrew a leather-bound ledger. Its pages were yellowed, its cover cracked with age. "A witch named Sabine who operates in the borderlands. She specializes in discreet services, scent masking, record alteration, the occasional memory blur." Zuri's stomach turned. "Someone hired a witch to destroy my life. Someone hired a witch to remove you from Darius's path." Naomi opened the ledger to a marked page. And they were not particularly careful about covering their tracks. She held out the book. Zuri took it with trembling hands. The page showed a list of transactions, dates, amounts, services rendered. Her eyes scanned the cramped handwriting until they caught on a familiar name. Imani Okonkwo. The signature was elegant, unmistakable. Zuri had seen it 100 times on packed documents, social invitations, formal correspondence. She signed it herself. Zuri breathed. She actually signed. Arrogance. Naomi shook her head slowly. Or certainty that no one would ever look. The witch kept meticulous records, professional hazard, I suppose. When my contact recovered this ledger, Imani's name appeared on 3 separate transactions. Zuri's grip tightened on the book until the leather creaked. What did she buy? First entry, 8 months ago, scent masking oil. Designed to mute a bonded wolf's presence in her mate's senses. Applied regularly, it would make your connection feel distant, unstable. Naomi's voice hardened. Thin. The word hit like a physical blow. Thin. Darius's exact word on the platform. Second entry, 6 months ago, payment to a pack healer, Claudette, for document falsification. The fertility records. And the third? Naomi met her eyes. 2 weeks ago, a consultation on mate mark forgery. The cabin seemed to tilt. She tried to fake a mate mark? Zuri's voice came out strangled. That's not possible. The mark comes from the bond itself. You can't just... No, you cannot. Naomi took the ledger back gently. Which is why Imani failed. According to my sources, she approached the witch for assistance and was turned away. Even Sabine has limits. A mate mark cannot be forged because it is not paint or ink. It is soul-made visible. Zuri thought of the ceremony. Darius announcing Imani as his Luna. Their hands clasped beneath the blood moon. She doesn't have a mark, Zuri realized slowly. He tried to claim her, but there's no mark. His wolf knows. It has always known. Naomi's expression softened slightly. The bond break hurt you terribly, child. But it did not destroy what exists between you. It cannot. Darius cut only the surface, the ritual acknowledgement. The root remains. Something stirred in Zuri's chest. Something that felt dangerously like hope. She crushed it. It doesn't matter, she said flatly. Even if the bond survives somewhere deep down, he chose to reject me. He stood in front of our entire pack and called me weak. Barren. A mistake. I felt his wolf retreating from me. I felt, her voice cracked. I felt him let me go. Naomi was quiet for a long moment. What Darius did was unforgivable, she said finally. I am not asking you to forgive him. I am asking you to understand that his actions were built on lies. Imani poisoned his perception for months. She masked your scent until he could barely sense you standing beside him. She fed him false evidence that you could never give him heirs. She manipulated his wolf into believing the bond was failing when it was stronger than either of them knew. And he believed her. Zuri's words came out bitter. Without question. Without coming to me. Without a single conversation. Yes. Naomi did not flinch. And that failure is his. Whatever happens at the hearing, whatever consequences fall, he will carry that weight. But you deserve to know the truth, child. You deserve to stand before the council with evidence in your hands, and watch the woman who tried to steal your life answer for it. Zuri stared at the ledger in Naomi's lap. 3 transactions. 3 betrayals. 8 months of her life unraveling because someone wanted what was hers. What do you need from me? Naomi's eyes glinted. Your testimony. Your presence. Your willingness to face them both without breaking. And then? And then the council decides. Naomi rose slowly, her joints creaking with age. Exile is the minimum sentence for mate claim interference. The alpha title, she paused. An alpha who fails to protect his fated mate has failed his most sacred duty. The council has removed leaders for less. Zuri's breath caught. You think they'll strip his title? I think they will have no choice. Naomi moved toward the door. Rest tonight. The hearing is at dawn. And Zuri. She turned back, her face carved in shadow. Whatever you decide after, whether you claim the Luna seed or walk away entirely, know that you have allies here. You have never been as alone as he made you feel. The door closed softly behind her. Zuri sat in the gathering darkness, the scent of healing herbs thick in the air. Her palm throbbed where the blade had cut her. Her chest ached where the bond had torn. But beneath the pain, something else stirred. Anger. Clean and cold and certain. Imani had stolen months of her life, had poisoned her mate's mind, had stood on that platform in ceremonial white and smiled while Zuri bled on the sacred stone. And Darius had let her. Zuri unwrapped the bandage on her hand. The wound still wept, but tonight the sight of it did not bring despair. It brought resolve. Tomorrow she would stand before the council. Tomorrow she would present the ledger, the healer's confession, the witch's records. Tomorrow she would watch Imani's smile crack and crumble. And then she would decide what kind of wolf she wanted to become. Outside, the moon had waned to a pale sliver. Inside, Zuri's wolf lifted her head for the first time in 3 days and waited for the dawn. Dawn came cold and unforgiving. Zuri walked to the council hall with her spine straight and her shoulders back. The wound on her palm still throbbed beneath fresh bandages, but she had stopped letting it slow her. Pain was just information now, evidence of what had been done to her. The hall was already full when she arrived. Every seat in the gallery held a pack member. Warriors, elders, mothers with sleeping pups, young wolves who had never witnessed a formal hearing. Word had spread through the compound like wildfire. The Alpha's mate claim was being challenged. The Luna elect faced accusations of fraud. History was being made. Zuri felt their eyes on her as she moved down the center aisle. Some gazes held pity. Others held curiosity. A few held something that looked almost like hope. She ignored them all. The council sat on a raised platform at the front of the hall. 7 elders, their faces carved from decades of service, their silver hair gleaming in the torchlight. Naomi occupied the center seat, her rich mahogany skin stark against the white ceremonial robes. To the left of the platform stood Darius. Zuri forced herself to look at him, forced herself to see the man who had cut her palm, and called her a mistake. He stood rigid, his deep brown skin ashen, his locks pulled back from a face that showed no expression at all. But his hands were clenched at his sides, and his wolf, she could feel it. Barely, like a whisper beneath closed doors. But it was there, pressing against something that should have been severed completely. Her own wolf stirred in response. Zuri turned away. To the right of the platform stood Imani. The ceremonial white was gone, replaced by simple gray. Her braids hung loose around her shoulders, and her warm cocoa skin had taken on a sallow cast. She looked smaller than she had on the Blood Moon platform, diminished. Good. This hearing will come to order. Naomi's voice rang through the hall. We are gathered to examine evidence of mate claim interference brought against Imani Okonkwo, and to determine whether Alpha Darius Mensah's rejection of his fated mate was conducted under fraudulent circumstances. The accused may speak only when addressed. The accuser, her eyes found Zuri, may present her evidence now. Zuri stepped forward. The gallery fell silent. Not even the youngest pups stirred in their mothers' arms. 3 days ago, Zuri began, her voice steady, I stood on the sacred platform expecting to renew my bond with my mate. Instead, I was cut, rejected, called barren and weak, sentenced to exile before I could speak a single word in my defense. She reached into the bag at her hip and withdrew the witch's ledger. This book contains records of transactions between a borderland witch named Sabine and a pack member who sought to destroy my place in this pack. She opened to the marked page. 3 transactions. The first, 8 months ago, purchased scent masking oil, designed to mute a bonded wolf's presence in her mate's senses, to make a connection feel thin, unstable. Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Zuri turned the page. The second transaction, 6 months ago, paid for document falsification, specifically, a fertility record claiming I was barren. A lie, delivered to our alpha to justify my removal. The murmurs grew louder. The third transaction, 2 weeks ago, attempted to purchase mate mark forgery. Zuri's eyes found Imani. The witch refused. Because a mate mark cannot be forged. It comes from the bond itself. And despite everything done to mask me, to poison my mate's mind against me, to fabricate evidence of my unworthiness, there is no mark on Imani's skin. Because there is no bond. Imani's composure cracked. This is absurd. Her voice came out thin, reedy. I don't know what that book is or where she got it, but anyone could have. The signature on each transaction is yours. Naomi's interruption was ice. Our analysts confirmed it against 6 samples of your handwriting. The match is absolute. The color drained from Imani's face. Zuri continued. I also have a confession from the pack healer Claudette, who was paid to falsify my records. She has agreed to testify that she never examined me for fertility issues. That the documents delivered to Alpha Darius were fabricated entirely at Imani's request. Bring the healer forward, one of the elders called. A side door opened. Claudette walked through, her steps uncertain, her eyes fixed on the floor. She was a small woman, her coils graying at the temples, her brown skin drawn tight with fear. Is it true? Naomi asked. Did you falsify fertility records for Zuri at Imani's instruction? Claudette swallowed. Yes. The word echoed through the silent hall. I was paid. Generously. I was told it was a kindness. That Zuri's barrenness would be discovered eventually, and this way she could be removed quietly, painlessly. Her voice broke. I believed them. I shouldn't have believed them, but I did. And the truth? Naomi pressed. Zuri's actual fertility status? Normal. Healthy. Claudette finally looked up, her eyes finding Zuri's. There was never anything wrong with you. I am so sorry. Zuri nodded once. She could not speak. The vindication should have felt sweet. Instead, it tasted like ash. Imani Okonkwo. Naomi's voice cut through the whispers. You stand accused of mate claim interference, document fraud, and conspiracy to exile a bonded pack member. How do you answer? Imani looked at Darius. It was a desperate look. A pleading look. The kind of look that expected rescue. Darius did not move. Imani's voice faltered. I loved him. I've loved him since we were pups. And she just appeared one day, and suddenly he couldn't see anyone else. It wasn't fair. The bond chose wrong. I would have been a better Luna. I would have... Answer the charge, Naomi said flatly. Did you do these things? The silence stretched. Then Imani's shoulders collapsed. Yes. The confession landed like a physical blow. The gallery erupted. Shouts, gasps, a child's frightened cry. Naomi let the chaos roll for 3 full breaths before raising her hand. Alpha Darius. Her voice carried over the noise, silencing it instantly. You rejected your fated mate, based on evidence that has now been proven false. You severed a sacred bond without verification. You condemned an innocent woman to exile on the word of her deceiver. How do you answer? Darius stood motionless. Zuri watched something move behind his eyes. Something that looked like the slow crumbling of certainty. His wolf pressed harder against the fragments of their bond, searching, grieving, finally awake. I was deceived, he said quietly. But deception is not absolution. I should have questioned. I should have investigated. I should have trusted the bond I had felt for 3 years over documents I received in secret. His voice roughened. I failed my mate. I failed my pack. And I accept whatever judgment the council sees fit to deliver. Naomi looked at the other elders. Silent communication passed between them. Decades of shared service compressed into glances and slight nods. Imani Okonkwo. Naomi's pronunciation fell like a gavel. You are found guilty of mate claim interference. You are sentenced to permanent banishment. You will leave Pack territory before sunset and never return. If you are seen within our borders again, you will be treated as a hostile intruder. Imani made a sound, half sob, half scream. Guards moved forward to escort her out. Alpha Darius Mensa. Naomi's voice did not soften. You are found guilty of failing to protect your fated mate. An alpha who cannot discern truth from manipulation, who severs sacred bonds without investigation, who condemns the innocent on the word of the guilty, such an alpha cannot lead. The words hung in the air. Your title is stripped, your authority dissolved. A new alpha will be selected by council vote within the moon cycle. Darius's jaw worked. He did not protest, did not defend himself. He simply stood as his rank was torn away, as his wolf howled somewhere deep in his chest, as the pack he had led watched him fall. Zuri, Naomi's voice gentled. By right of blood and bond, the Luna's seat belongs to you. You may claim it now, rule beside whatever alpha the council selects, and rebuild what was broken. The offer hung between them. Zuri looked at the council, at the gallery full of pack members who had watched her bleed and said nothing. At Darius, stripped and silent, his wolf reaching for something that no longer existed. No, the word came out clear. I thank the council for its justice. But I will not claim a seat in a hall where I was dragged out in chains 3 days ago. She straightened her shoulders. I am leaving, on my own terms, and this pack can decide what it wants to become without me. She walked toward the main doors. The gallery parted. Darius made a sound. Her name, broken and desperate, but she did not turn. The dawn light caught her as she stepped through the gates, warm on her skin, gold in her coils. She did not look back at the steps where her former mate stood watching, his mark already fading from his skin. She walked forward, and behind her, the gates closed,